I don't know who needs to hear this today, but if you're thinking about divorcing your spouse, think again if you have kids under 16 years old. Now, this excludes any kind of domestic violence, drug abuse. Obviously, if that's going on, leave safely.
Hey, beautiful people, how are you doing today? Sugar Mara David, and thank you all so much for tuning in another interesting video. So, in today's video, this woman is saying that if you're a woman and you want to divorce your husband and you have kids that are below the age of 18, consider it. Consider the divorce and think about your children because you're going to miss out on a lot of things in your children's life because you're no longer married to your partner. So she's basically telling women that aside from domestic violence, aside from drug addict or something, do not divorce your partner if you have kids because it's not advisable. Let me read the video for you all to watch and I'll be back.
I don't know who needs to hear this today, but if you're thinking about divorcing your spouse, think again if you have kids under 16 years old. Now, this excludes any kind of domestic violence, drug abuse. Obviously, if that's going on, leave safely. But for the average person, you just don't like your spouse anymore. You just decided they bug you, they annoy you, you're bickering, you think the grass would be greener. You forgot all the reasons why you met, married, fell in love with this person. And now time has passed, you're at each other's throats, and you want to get a divorce. It is not what you think it's going to be like because you're only really thinking about separating from this person. But you're not thinking about what it's going to be like when you only get to see your kids 50% of the time, when they only have X amount of birthdays or X amount of Christmases before they're 18 and they're on their own, and 50% of them now don't belong to you. What it's like for the kids when they have to be bounced back and forth, how you're going to feel when another woman is raising your children and calling herself their mother. These are the things I want you to think about. James and I are at his daughter's graduation out of state right now, and there's a lot of blended situations between family members that are going on here. And so we just got to talking about our divorces. And it's been 15 years for him and 12 years for me. So when we get in the car, we're about to drive back to Texas. I'm going to do another video with James and we're going to share some stuff with you guys. So don't forget to look for the second video, but think twice. Think twice about this divorce you're thinking about. It's not going to be what you think it is.
My question is, would you allow a woman that she's emotionally abused, she's with a narcissist, would you allow her stay in the marriage just because she has children for the man or just because her kids are not at the age of 18, up to the age of 18? Would you advise somebody to do that? I feel like this is one thing they usually tell women, and this is one thing that fears women a lot when they want to divorce. They usually blackmail them emotionally with kids. They tell you, think about your children, think about your children's life, think about another woman coming to be the mother of your children. Can you take it? Can you do this? Can you do that? So those kind of fear and abuse, to me, I feel like that's like blackmailing, blackmailing women emotionally. I feel like those kind of fear actually makes women to be afraid to divorce their partner. They kind of stay in the marriage regardless, even if they're happy or not. And they don't usually divorce most of the time because of the kids. I have few reactions to share with you all in today's video. Let me read some videos for you all to watch. And yeah, I'll be back to share my thoughts at the end of the video.
This excludes any kind of domestic violence, drug abuse, obviously.
Okay, I do know who needs to hear all this. Just go back and actually watch the full video because, again, as always, context is key. But I do know who needs to hear this, and that is everybody. Everybody needs to hear what I'm about to say. Number one, this creator is probably talking about themselves or like a friend. They are not talking about the grand majority of women who pursue divorce. Number one. Number two, their disclaimers are woefully limited. Domestic violence, yes, is a reason to get a divorce. Drugs and substance use can, yes, be a reason to get a divorce. Emotional abuse, which our country and our society in general fails to truly recognize and have meaningful responses to, is also a reason to get a divorce. Financial abuse in a capitalist society is a reason to get a divorce. They then go on to say that you'll only see your kids 50% of the time. Right away. I'm so sorry. If you're a woman, the split is probably 80-20, with you having the kids 80% of the time and the dad having the kids 20% of the time. And that's statistics. That is simply statistics. In general, in a heterosexual situation, in a divorce, in general, the dad has the kid the mom has the kid 80% of the time, and the dad has the kid 20% of the time. That figure actually goes back to California. I want to say maybe the 60s or 70s. I got to check my number on that. Okay, so divorce was first legal in 1851 in California, but it was for like extreme things. Divorce as we understand it now, like no fault divorce, that was like late 60s, early 70s when that first came around. Oddly enough, it was signed into law by conservative and Republican hero Ronald Reagan. All times they do change. But I digress. In those instances with no fault divorce, California judges and courts also had to deal with custody, and initially they just did 50-50. They said, dad gets the kids 50% of the time, mom gets the kids 50% of the time. That was just like, we're not going back and forth, we're not going to decipher who spends this, where's that, we're not going to negotiate. 50-50 across the board. And what they found is 80% of the time, the kids ended up being with the mom, and 20% of the time, the kids ended up being with the dad. And those numbers have not changed significantly since then, since the 70s. It is now 2024. So that notion that you're only going to have kids 50% of the time, 50-50, is not true for most people. For most people, it's going to be an 80-20 split favoring the mother. So if you're seeking a divorce from someone, 9 times out of 10 women are seeking divorce from relationships that are extremely abusive and toxic. Just understand you're probably going to have your kids the majority of the time, because when everything shakes out as far as like care versus neglect and, just knowledge and understanding and ability, it's in general the moms who are killing the game on that. And it's not because those things mothers are innately nurturing, because plenty of us have mothers who are not very nurturing. It has to do with the fact that most of the time men flop on the ground, a la 3-year-old having a temper tantrum when it comes to being asked to care for their kids and give meaningful support to their children. She then goes to talk about when the kids are 18 and they move out on their own. Who is she talking about? Because she's not talking about most kids. Most kids, especially in this economy, are going to turn 18 and then they're going to continue to stay with their parents while they pursue higher education or they begin to work. Because in this economy that we are living in right now, nobody can fucking afford to live on their own. Least of all an 18-year-old child with like probably no credit history. And because most people are living very close to poverty now, no meaningful financial support for their parents. But let's say the kids like want enough scholarships and grants and everything like that, and their families and parents are able to give them enough money to go to college out of state or go away from college. Most of the time, those kids are going to be back home on the weekends, on breaks, like regularly. They're going to be back home with you. Because, and when they're not with you, is it going to be hard? Yes, it's going to be challenging, but that is like a normal stage of growth and development. That is a normal kind of trek into adulthood. not being in your parents' face all the time, not being in your kids' face all the time. This is normal and healthy. But again, so we're not doing 50-50, 9 times out of 10. And she is talking to women. 9 times out of 10, the kids are going to be with you the majority of the time. And then when they go to college, if you have wealth and they are highly, skilled at academic achievement, they might go away to college. But most of the time, they're going to spend the first year or two in college at home with parents, like learning how to balance the college load and saving money, or just working and having a job. So that's not true. Now, here's some benefits of getting that divorce and getting out of that toxic, unhealthy relationship. Number one, you get to raise a child in a household in which the two major players and managers in the household aren't constantly fighting, which reduces the amount of stress, not only for you as a parent, but also the children, because not only do the children get to feel, probably hear and see and experience the acrimony between you and your spouse, but they can do nothing about it. They just have to sit and be victim to two people that they depend upon for their very lives, fighting each other. When you decide to end that toxic relationship, what you get to have is peace in your house, not only for yourself, but for your children. Your children get to come home and know that they're not going to have to avoid two very old, very powerful people who are in conflict with each other. Very old, very powerful people who they are dependent on, who are in conflict with each other. Number one. Number two, let's say your ex has a very good relationship with the children and cares for the children. You guys finally get breaks. You get breaks from parenting, along with that break from that spouse that you aren't getting along with. You get breaks, right? You get to send them to live with the other parent, even if it's just 20% of the time, and you get a few days off to just kind of feed yourself and pursue you. That first year of being out of an unhealthy marriage is a year that you get to spend rediscovering yourself. It can actually be a very beautiful time. But let's say you have to negotiate and you don't, or maybe you don't get to send the kids off to live with dad. Say dad is just not a part of it. Well, if he's someone who's just not going to be a part of it, would you feel comfortable sending your kids off to him? He's probably a wreck of a person, and you and the kids are probably better off not being around him at all. So here we go again, back to I get to have peace in my home. My kids get to have peace in my home. I get to have safety and security in my home. My kids get to have safety and security in my home. Please don't believe the hype. Nobody's getting divorced for superficial reasons. That is a major life decision, and it can be very expensive and very challenging mentally, emotionally, financially. I don't know who she's talking about, but I suspect she's talking about herself or a friend. I definitely know she's not talking about the majority of women that are pursuing divorce. Do not be gaslit by people on the internet. You know who you are and what you need. And if this is something that you need to do for your health and safety and well-being, then please do that. Because inevitably, you doing things for your health and safety and well-being is you doing things for your children's health and safety.
I don't know who needs to hear this today, but if you're thinking about divorcing your spouse, think again if you have kids under 16 years old.
Well, I have a lot to say about this one, to be honest. I'll link it below so you can watch the whole thing. But first things first, she says that this doesn't apply if there's drug use or abuse or anything like that. But if you're just bored and not getting along, there is an ocean to experience within a marriage in between those two extremes, okay? I don't know anyone, including myself, any woman who got divorced because she was bored, okay? I feel like that doesn't exist. So there's that. But I want to share my story as somebody who is fully on the other side of things, because she goes on to say that you don't want to be with your kids only half the time. And that was the number one thing that was holding me back from getting divorced when I did. It holds most women back, and men too, to be honest. They don't want to see their kids half the time. But let me tell you what. When the babies were born, okay, I had my two kids essentially back to back. They're 16 months apart. And I stayed at home with them for about 4 years. I hardly remember. There is an entire vacation that we took to Cape Cod for 2 weeks that I did not remember. I had this one little memory of it, of me walking around Falmouth with my mom and my two kids. And I was like, was that a dream? Because why would my mom be in Falmouth? Because my dad is the one who lived on the Cape, okay? And then years later, my sister-in-law was like, yeah, remember when we went to the Cape? And I was like, no, I don't remember. Because when babies are that little, they were 1 and 2 at the time, I was so in the weeds, so sleep deprived, so exhausted that I literally forgot, okay? So there goes all of that end of this like magical memory time that you're supposed to be building with your children, okay? And then secondly, the point, and I actually left this comment on her video too. When I got divorced and I shared 50-50 custody with my ex, yes, did I have my kids half the time? 100%. But you know what I became? I became a husband. I realized that because I had 50-50 custody, I could fully lean into my career. Finally, I went on all my work trips on the days that I didn't have the kids. I was able to now stay late at work because he had the kids and I wasn't obligated to come home. I was able to build a career that I would have never been able to build in the situation I was in. And then secondly, the next thing that made me a husband to myself, it turns out, is that I was now able to enjoy hobbies. I started doing improv. I joined a band. I was able to go out with my girlfriends. I was able to go to brunch sometimes. I was able to pour back into myself. And I know there is nothing that the internet hates more than a woman who dares to pour into herself. But you know what that did? That modeled for my girls a woman who they could admire, a woman who was not just a slave to them and to a household. They saw their mom go from an assistant product manager to head of ops of multiple startups, right? Like a lot of women do not get to have a career trajectory like that if they are a mom and they are married, because they do not have the spousal support at home. He comes first. His career comes first. The house, the kids, his family, her family, everybody comes first. But I was able to build something that I have now been able to help my kids with school, help them get cars, help them be launched out into the universe now to the point where they are 21 and 20 and fully living on their own with professional jobs and no roommates, like I said in another video. And yeah, am I bragging about that? Absolutely, because you know what else society tells you? That if you have children and you get divorced, you are fucking them for all eternity. I'm here to tell you, you are not. And I'll close this by saying that when I was going through this, contemplating getting a divorce, I went to therapy. I went to so much therapy. And because I was at that point where I'm like, do you stay together for the kids, right? And the therapist at the time, she told me, listen, I have adult clients who were children in households where the second they graduated from high school or the second they turned 18, their parents got divorced. And now those kids are in therapy because they have so much guilt about being the person who forced their mom or dad to live in misery. And that honestly sealed the deal for me. And listen, I am not an advocate for divorce. What I am an advocate, though, is for women's happiness. And women, mothers, deserve to be happy. You do not have to put yourself on a shelf. You do not have to put your entire whole soul and 20 something plus years of your life aside and just wait to that day where you deem that they're old enough, or wait to that day where you just literally have had it. You have every right to build a career and be a mom. And will you see your children slightly less? Yes, but so does every fucking man on the planet. I am sorry. There are endless dads who travel for work like I do, who have endless hobbies like I do. They do the same thing and they're just dad who has a wife in the house picking up all of his shit. Well, you know what? I got to be my own husband and my own wife because I had somebody else have the kids half the time. Now, listen, this might be beneficial for everyone, even if you want to stay together. Because that way, listen, it's so hard for women to feel like they have the right, that they have the right for themselves. And listen, it's obvious. We don't even have bodily autonomy, right? So why would we have the right to our own happiness? Clearly, rights are optional for women. But unlike what the poster said, if you are on the fence for valid reasons, because yet again, I doubt that you're just like, you know what? Johnny's boring. I doubt that. I'm certain you are going through it if you are contemplating divorce. And I am here to set you free. You will be okay, and your kids will be amazing.
Well-being.
The first creator was saying that if you just want to divorce for divorce sake as a woman, don't do it. Think about your children. Unless there is, abuse or something. My own is, the thing is, before you see a woman that just wake up one day and say she want to divorce a partner, it is something that she has thought about. It is not a day job. It is not something she will just, you know what, I'm going to marry this guy and I'm going to divorce him tomorrow. Women don't just divorce like that. It's not. I don't think there's any woman that do not like a happy home, or that does not like a man that takes care of them, that makes them happy, that makes them feel like they are needed, right, and pay their bills and all of that. I feel like every woman wants that. So if you're getting all of that from your partner, and it's just you mentally, you're just like, you know what, I don't want this relationship anymore. I want to be on my own now, with no reason. Is rare. Women that file for divorce and just bring out things like that, it's very rare, to be honest. And they tell you, oh, it's because of me, he's a perfect person, didn't do anything. Most of the time, these people must have hurt them continuously. And most of the time, it's not even a one-time thing. It is not a one-time hurt. It is a continuous hurt. It is something that they do that the woman must have seen and be like, oh, this person's not going to change. The best thing for me is to choose my happiness, and they have to go, right? So it is a continuous thing that the man must have been doing to them that will make them want to divorce their partner. It is very easy to blackmail a woman emotionally when she wants to leave her partner, blackmail her with the children, because that is what people do. Once you have kids for your husband, or you have two, three, four, like that amount of children for him, once you're like, you know what, I want to leave, probably he's not a good husband to you, and you're telling your family members, your friends, your colleagues, anybody you want to talk to, they will tell you, think about your children. And there's one thing they usually say, they'll say, your husband will have another step or another wife, and your kids will start having stepmother, and another woman will take care of your children. Can you stand another woman take care of your children? And you see them saying that, oh, when I was young, my mom took care, or my stepmom was the one that took care of me, she maltreated me. They always put it back on the woman, and they always want to blame a woman for living a toxic relationship. And a woman will not just leave a good space. That's one thing I know. A woman will not leave a place that is rosy, a place that she's happy, a place that she feels loved. She will not just get up and go, knowing that she has a family, she loves her children. She will not just get up and go. Something must have happened. Something must have been happening, and she cannot deal with it anymore. And the thing is, not living because of your children. Me personally, I don't agree with things like that. When people, tell women, oh, don't leave because of your children, or your children are still small. They tell you your babies or your kids are still small. Stay till they grow to a certain age, then you can leave. I don't agree with that, to be honest. If you're ready to leave a relationship, just leave, regardless you have kids or not, because the kids are seeing you and they know when you're happy or when you're sad. If your marriage with the person is very toxic, your children are seeing, they are aware, they know what is going on, and it's affecting them mentally in their own head. They might feel like that is how relationships is supposed to be. And when you're sad, you're crying, and you think you're hiding your tears from your kids, they see it. They know you're sad. They know that their dad is hurting you. They can see, they can sense it. So you staying because of them, and you know saying I don't want to miss out in anything is wrong, because they're actually involved in that toxic. There's no how you can hide a toxic relationship for so long. Even if you hide it for a while, you can't hide it from your kids. They are in that house and they know what is going on. They know you're not happy. They know how the father is treating you, and you're staying regardless. You're showing them that, oh, no matter how much a man can treat you, or if you have daughters, still stay, because that is how relationship is supposed to be. And even you're teaching your sons to always treat their woman the way their father is treating you, if that makes sense. So for me, I feel like if you leave and you're happy, probably come back later to, be with your kids, they'll appreciate you more than you staying in that toxic and telling them that I am here because of you. And the thing is that I feel like in African homes, most African parents might sometimes gaslight you, and they feel so entitled in some situation with you as their children, telling you, oh, I stayed in this marriage because of you guys, so you guys have to do this. They always turn to their children and, pass on your aggression, be angry at their kids. No matter what the husband does to them, they always want to be angry with the kids, shout at them, pass the aggression on the kids and tell them that I am here because of you guys. I'm not here because of your father. I'm here because of you guys. And the thing is, you cannot hide it for long, right? And it is not only maybe physical abuse that can make people to leave a relationship. Some people can be cheating. So cheating alone can, do that. A lot of things can make a woman be very unhappy in a marriage. And the thing, as I said earlier, it is a continuous process. It is not something that it was just a one-off. Most of the time, women always forgive and want to start all over again. Forgive, want to start all over again. Is when it has gotten to a stage whereby they're like, you know what, I can't keep going back and forth on this situation. I think this is not working out. That is when women will go. I don't think a woman will just wake up one day from my slumber and just be like, you know what, I don't want married again. This guy did not do anything to me. I just don't want to be married again. People might do that. People might do that, but it's very rare for a woman to just do that out of the blues, if that makes sense. What is your take on women that advise, or mothers that advise other mothers not to leave their marriage, not to divorce their marriage because they have kids, or advising them to divorce when their child is over 18 or when their child has got to a certain age? What is your take on that advice? Do you think is a good one or not? For me, I see it as emotional blackmail for the mothers, and it is not nice, because as a woman, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to live your life and be happy. So if you live your life around your children, your husband, and if you're not happy, your years are going by and you cannot get those years back. So if you keep saying, I'm gonna stay for the kids, I'm gonna stay for the kids, what if you get unalive in that process? The women that you're afraid that they will be the stepmom for your kids will be there, and there's nothing you can do because you're already, you're gone, right? Now that you're alive and you're healthy, you can do so many things. You can change so many things about yourself, and your children will love you for it in years to come. Anyways, what is your take on this conversation? Can you share your thoughts down in the comment section? Respectfully, Ichigo Mara Davis, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.